Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury.
Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Cannon Podcast. And the first episode of Scouted for a long time. We are back. We are here to talk about Riccardo Calafiori with his cousin. With his, actually maybe his father, who knows, my boy George. We just did an hour looking at clips of Calafiori on Y-Scout, which you can go check out for free as a member on Patreon or as a YouTube member. We also asked the directors to actually pick this Scouted, and we're going to be doing that throughout the season. So if you want to become a director and get voting rights, you can do that as well. But you can also check out the clips for free to check out what we're talking about with actual footage. But we're here to talk a really, really strong start to the season for Calafiori, which is really exciting. He's our fourth most used player. Last season, we were looking up some of the numbers, George, and he was below Kivior. He was below various players that we sort of couldn't believe. Long injuries, Havertz and Saka and stuff.
Havertz and Saka was pretty.
Yeah, he got way less minutes than I think 1,500 minutes. So yeah, some pretty crazy numbers of last season. Talk me through what has shifted in your mind for Calafiori. We saw it on the pitch. We sort of tried to break it down. But yeah, talk me through the positives of this start to the season.
Yeah, I think he's fit. And I won't leave too much on that bone. So he's playing, and that's a positive. But really, it's I'll get really technical with my improvement. It's more about his patience in defending. So one of the big things that we talked about with Calafiori, if everyone will remember Savinho and Man City as a thing where his judging of distances when he was pulled out wide in his 1v1 defending weren't always there. He had a tendency to overcommit, a tendency to fly in, and a tendency to almost be lazy with potentially leaving a leg out in terms of his defending. It wasn't always with the right patience. And one of the things that you talk about with 1v1 defending is just this idea that, okay, you accelerate to your marker, but then you stutter step and get in low to the ground to a positive defensive stance and wait for the attacker to make a move and wait for that moment. Be patient for it. And don't meet your duel where the player is, but meet the duel where the player wants to go. And so when you do those things and you match up with those fundamentals, you're more likely to get a successful outcome. And Calafiori is now doing that. I see a lot more instances of him stutter stepping to a marker, backing off and waiting for the challenge to come from the attacker instead of him just barreling through and trying to take out the man or take out the ball. There's a lot more intention and patience to the way that he engages. And that's all that judging distances is when you're talking from a defensive point of view. And that's huge. Like that little change, that ability to stutter step, pause, get into your low defensive stance and backpedal or wait for the attacker to make a move before engaging is the difference in why we see that Jurrien Timber's so brilliant. His distances and his ability to judge that distance is spot on every single time. And Calafiori is getting there. And I think that's one of the biggest improvements that you've seen, the strength in his defending improve this season.
Yeah. Yeah, we broke it down on the clips. So if you want to go check that out, I think and I think we also want to stress, and we did say this on the Scout, that it wasn't all bad last year and all good this year. It's a constant improvement. But I think the three things that we sort of pointed to, I think, were the sort of the technique, the positioning, and the commitment. And he's always had the commitment. It's maybe been overcommitting at times, but he's started to sort of control those things a bit more. The positioning's more consistent, let's say, and I think the technique in terms of getting on his toes, as you say, is much better. So yeah, it's really good. I think really for me, as you say, and the massive part is just that he is fit and available, and he's he arrived after a Euros. He had it was such a stop-start for him at Arsenal. Also the rise of Miles Lewis-Skelly as well, was a big thing for him, and and having that sort of that story be at the club and stuff. And I'm sure it was a sense of like, oh, I thought I was the new guy at the club, and it turns out they've got someone here. It's a big thing, but really, and I want to put some numbers to this as well. I just think he's got more serious about football, and you said it on the Scout, and I think you're right. He probably missed it. He probably just missed playing football and missed doing what he loves to do. In terms of the numbers, George, like some of these all around, it's crazy what he's doing. I think he's our fourth most used player. He's the second most progressive carries in the squad. So this isn't just defenders. This is beyond ahead of Odegaard and Rice and so on and so forth. The fourth most tackles and interceptions in the squad. He has the third most goal-creating actions per 90 in the squad. His overall game, shots per 90, which we'll come to as an improvement as well, is third or fourth if you count Max Dowman's small sample size. But overall, there's a real improvement and a real steel to him. And as I think, as I said, he's always had this aura, or whatever you want to say about Calafiori, but there feels like a new bite to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a conversation with Mikel, if there was a discussion about getting serious off the pitch and, you know, getting yourself fit and making sure you're doing exactly the right things, whatever. And obviously that's speculation, but I do feel that's probably something there. We also discussed improvements, and there was stuff that we, you know, obviously as a young defender, people won't forget on this channel that he's younger than Bukayo Saka, because we say it every time, but people do forget that he is still a very, very young player. Talk to me. I want to talk about shots. You want to talk about his crossing, and we picked this out on the Scout, and it's really, it's a really interesting one to get into.
Yeah, I'd encourage everyone to go to Scout, because I actually don't think you would pick up on it unless you really try to isolate some of those clips. He's got a phenomenal potential to develop a beautiful whipped cross, and he's got just excellent understanding of, you know, the power and the direction. Not everyone can have that technique. The issue is, again, it's a patience thing. So he's learned it from a defensive point of view, but he's got to be patient in terms of his release in the final third, because he has excellent pickouts. It's very targeted. It's directional in terms of where he tries to put the ball. But at times it can be a case of, you know, being a little bit lazy with it, just trying to get the ball into the area, not being patient enough to wait for the moment, take an extra touch to go around your man and an extra touch into space so that the cutback is properly going to hit your marker. There's a little bit of timings where I think he just attempts the cross and it gets blocked, as opposed to actually trying to put whip on it, because he can do it and it's brilliant. So it's just a little bit about patience, because technically he's got an ability to swerve the ball in and out of where it's got. He's got an ability to find a man. Several times that when we looked back, in fact, even without looking, he's going to hit Marino on a cutback that we saw. The Bukayo Saka and PSG cross is just a perfect example. I'd encourage everyone to go back, and once you're done crying from what Bukayo did, just have a look at what Calafiori was able to do with that cross, because if he's able to do that even 2 or 3 more times per game, it's just the whipped cross is something this squad lacks. And so I think there's excellent potential for him to develop that. And that's one of my things I'd like to see this season.
Yeah. Yeah, it is funny. It was sort of on a whim. I was like, should we look at his crossing? And it is funny that, that there is a potential there. And I like the fact that he's going wide. And
I'm like, yes, please let's look at the crossing.
Using that width. Yeah, I want to talk about shots, and this is another sort of slightly serendipitous thing that I didn't necessarily plan on speaking about, but I looked it up, and he has the 3rd most shots in the entire squad. And this is kind of hilarious to be talking about whatever. I don't want to almost give him a label as a defender or a centre back or left back or whatever, because he just is what he is, right? But if you're having the 3rd most shots in the squad, we were sort of talking about it, right? Like, maybe you need to be a bit harsher about what's happening when you have the shots, because I think I almost view them at the minute as a bit of a novelty, and a bit like, oh, Calafiori's having a shot, how exciting. And actually, if you are going to have them, you're going to have that many, then we need to start sort of getting serious about how to improve it. I think the thing, and this is something I literally have only just looked at, but I think as a kind of working theory, and I'd be curious on people's takes on this, it feels like generally, you point out the decision making, and I think you're right. Some of those decisions are just a bit mad, but also he is one of the players in the squad who takes those risks, and I like that, and I want to be careful not to shut that down too much. He scoops the ball a little bit too much for me. He's getting underneath the ball, especially on his right-hand side. Obviously, he's left-footed. Oftentimes, I think probably I'd say 80% of the shots were off his right, and he gets that sort of chip almost onto the ball, and it takes the power out of the ball. It can mean it go, it sort of balloons over. I think sometimes it comes in the rashness of the moment, and he's sort of cut inside, and he's like, right, I'm going to go for it. But just that getting through the center of the ball, locking your ankle, really, it does feel mad saying this about Calafiori, but hopefully people understand the justification. If you are going to have that many shots, I think the consistency of the shot technique of getting right in the center of the ball and shooting, the basics of shooting through his laces, he just gets a little bit too under the ball, getting his head over it. We discussed a little bit in terms of what he's improved from a defensive perspective and getting more on his toes and getting his weight over. If you're going to have that many shots, sorry to repeat myself, then you have to do the same at the other end. Let's sort of close this, because it is fascinating, this whole left-hand side, and we found Miles last season. We've got a developing Calafiori and a massive asset, and someone that we're obviously keen on using based on so far this season. We've just signed Piero Hincapié. We've got fit Gabriel. How do you see this all playing out? Is it Miles in the midfield? Is it Calafiori taking up different positions and we don't need to call him that? What is it? Talk to me.
I think that with Calafiori, the only thing I'm certain of is when he's fit, he starts. And that's probably the biggest benefit that I can give him. And I'm not too sure on the positional capacity, but I just want him to become an imprint on this team. Like, he's got the talent to me to rise into the category of being a pillar of a team. And that's how much I rate the talent. And I think there's a lot we haven't seen. I think in this team, the responsible talent is going to be Saliba as far as the leader in the back line. But this is a guy that has a capability to carry into midfield, probably best starting from central, but allowing himself to exploit his freedom, because he's got an ability to get you up the pitch, and he's got an ability to rise in big moments. The amount of times that we've seen where he gets a goal against Wolves when it was 0-0 against both of us having a red card, the Man City moment, the United moment. Even there's times, I forget who it was, when he chops back onto his right and hits the post. This is a guy that rises to these key moments. And when it's 0-0 PSG, I wouldn't be surprised if he was the one to break the deadlock. If you were talking about the people in our squad who can break a deadlock, and we ignore the hilariousness about the shots and the actual being fit to play and all those things, if he was playing, it wouldn't surprise me that between Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, and Calafiori is one of the ones where I'm like, consistently will rise up in moments. And that is gold dust. Just gold dust in terms of you can't put a value on it. So I think he could become a real big pillar of the team. And I just want him to play. I want him to accumulate 2,500 minutes this season. That's what I would like. Establish yourself in the team and really make yourself a starter. One of the first names on the team sheet. I think you've got talent to do it, but actually follow through.
Does being his father impact how much you love him? A little bit.
That's my son. Sorry, Mike. I love all my sons equally. I have a lot of sons in the team.
Exactly.
I'm a father to many.
That was my sons. There you go. Go check out the clips. Interesting one. And we're going to continue to do sort of scouted on our players through the season. Obviously, when we don't have sort of transfer links and stuff to have a look at, but we'll also continue to look at links if they come up. Go check it out. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed.
Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.